and we go directly to 1991, where comes Streets of Rage by Sega.
Big one.
Well, this franchise has not pushed major new features, but they are the most played bell scrollers, and so are the disproportionate influence nonetheless. So it's good to talk about that.
It's almost like, if you think about it in terms of companies, like Final Fight is obviously the Street Fighter beat 'em ups. I mean, it's Capcom. It's like literally the same company. But I always almost kind of feel like Streets of Rage is like the king of fighters of beat 'em ups. It's like the main competitor that has its own kind of cool elements to it, but is still incredibly influenced by Street Fighter, obviously.
Yeah.
Does that seem like a pretty good comparison?
Absolutely, yes. Maybe the only distinction is that I think Streets of Rage is a bit more accessible, and I would say King of Fighters is a bit less accessible, but
that's true.
Outside of that,
So Streets of Rage, in terms of its legacy, it's kind of like one of those series where it may not have done anything particularly innovative, but it just really was polished and brought a lot of great shit together. You know, it was really solid, and that's always something I appreciate. Even if you're not necessarily reinventing the wheel, you're putting out something solid and something that's expanding your player base. I always think that's a really legit thing to pursue.
The first thing Streets of Rage really managed was to propose a good Final Fight experience for console. Streets of Rage 1 was kind of like playing a little less beautiful. It plays as well as Final Fight almost. So what it changed from Final Fight is it features the distinction between grabbing your opponents from the front or from the back. This is where you really see a game has been inspired by Streets of Rage, because there are not that many beat 'em up that did that. So from the front you can toss them behind you, and from the back you can slam them behind you. It's very limiting compared to Final Fight, where once you grab your opponent you can just instantly toss them in the direction you want. But that also means interesting tactical consequences.
Streets of Rage, if you grab someone and you press jump, you'll get on the other side of them and you'll get a different throw. That's not in Final Fight, is it? That's a Streets of Rage thing.
Absolutely.
Okay.
In Streets of Rage, you need to press jump, just like you said. So you can switch between the front grab and the back grab while grabbing, while maintaining your grab. You can do it one time. The second time, you will break the grab. But you have to do this first to change the direction where you will send the enemies. And also, how you send them is very different. Again, from the front, it'd be a toss. And if you play as Blaze, for example, the toss goes really far behind her. But then if she switches position and goes to the back of her enemy, she will just suplex him, which doesn't bring a lot in terms of crowd control, but helps her position him still on the right side of the screen. It also has an infinite chain system. By waiting between inputs, you can keep performing jab. It's good because it still makes you vulnerable. So sometimes you want to finish your string fast, and sometimes you want to use it. You want to pause to make the pause and do it this way to quickly dispose of the opponents you have sucked into your jabs. So sucking opponents, when I say sucking your opponents into your jabs, when you have performed your grouping well, and now you have all the enemies locked into your jab. It also had original contextual actions. There are co-op moves performed by grabbing your partner. You can also kick when grappled, then toss your opponent in front of you with the right timing, which kinda looks cool. You can land on your feet after being tossed, and you can be crushed by the heaviest enemies. All of these things are small stuff, but for Streets of Rage, because it was so loved and so played, all these little things, you can see them in a lot of releases, especially nowadays when a game is not too modern. It's usually based on Streets of Rage.
I could see that, yeah. Alrighty, we got a whole pile of them, so I'll let you take the wheel here.
In 1991, Captain Commando is often overlooked. It actually features a very important mechanic, which is the moving chain system. So what's a moving chain system is when you attack and you move while attacking. So instead of standing still and doing your combo, you're moving while attacking. It's
Ninja
not
Gaiden
absolute
style.
3D beat 'em up style.
Yes,
It's basically every 3D beat 'em up hack and slash now uses a moving chain system.
Yeah.
That's why it's so big. It's not the first one to do that. I want to be accurate in that. To my knowledge, it's Burning Fight, but there's much more thought into it in Captain Commando. In Captain Commando, for example, you can choose between the standing system and the moving chain system. As long as you press forward plus A, you're moving in your chain, and if you just press A, you're standing still. In Burning Fight, you're not moving much, and it was an unintended side effect.
Whoops! They forgot to change the states.
Yeah, they forgot to block. You don't move when you attack in Burning Fight, but they don't block the character, so you can move a little bit between attacks. It's a bit janky. It's a very cheap game, to be honest.
Like we were saying, if it's unintentional, it's not quite the same as if it's intentional design, because that really affects the other aspects of the gameplay. You know, the character design, the boss design, the enemy design, the level design. If it's intentional, all of that is tailored around the mechanic, where if it's unintentional, it's just jank, basically.
Yeah, absolutely. It changed the gameplay of Captain Commando a lot more. Captain Commando is a departure from slower beat 'em up to faster beat 'em up. You can run in Captain Commando, and it's very important to run
that sounds
everywhere on the screen. So I wanted to talk about this, of course, because every 3D beat 'em up uses the moving chain system, but it's also influential for 2D beat 'em up. Actually, most 2D beat 'em up use it as a way to further differentiate their playable characters. So, for example, in Alien vs Predator, Lin uses the moving chain system, but not the other characters. And Streets of Rage 4 is particularly guilty of this. In Streets of Rage 4, you have Axel and Blaze, who mostly use a static system, which makes them feel very safe, while in the complete opposite, Estelle constantly moves from left to right and right to left, which makes her feel very evasive.
So, this next game, Knights of the Round. What's going on with Knights of the Round?
So, Knights of the Round, it's a very influential game. It's a game where you play the Knights of Arthur. From the medieval time, from the fantasy medieval time. This game expands the time block system that was introduced in the King of Dragons. So the King of Dragons is another release by Capcom in 1991. Simplistic beat 'em up in a way. You just have one attack and one jump attack.
Yes.
And also a magical attack that is kind of your desperation attack. King of Dragons is loved despite the fact it's minimalist. It sports very good enemy and boss design, and it's simple, but it works well. It's not very influential in terms of beat 'em up. Knights of the Round is very modern in the way it plays. So in the King of Dragons, you could block by pressing back just before your enemy attacks. So it was another block mechanics, but at this time they were a bit more frequent than you used to think. Knights of the Round actually introduced the first true parry mechanic. So if you block the same way as in the King of Dragons, now you're even rewarded with iframes. So it's very important to actually parry Knights of the Round. It's the only way to open up certain boss. So yeah, it will become a philosophy in modern beat 'em up and even action RPGs and stuff like that to open the enemies by first baiting their attack and parrying the stuff. One interesting thing it did is that you've got two timing to realize it. There's one that is anticipatory. So you're holding A, then quickly holding back. And the parry will happen as long as the attack happens during the next 2 seconds. So 2 seconds is a fairly large window. After which there's a 2-second cooldown. So this is to reward a good mind game, basically. Or you could just do it as a reaction by just holding back at the very last moment, just like in the King of Dragons, but then it was much harder to pull off as it was strict timing.
Right.
And I love the fact that it can be used in both ways. Another notable feature is that there is an emergency retreat, which is performed by pressing back plus B, which is a backstep unique to each character. So this kind of parrying and dodging style of gameplay also is very modern. And there's an EV attack, so there's a distinction between light attack and EV attack, which is also something we'll see in a lot of more modern beat-em-up action RPGs and stuff like that. So this is done by pressing A then forward. It has a long startup lag, and it has no throw games. So again, this is very modern as well, because throw game will be drastically reduced or completely left out in a more modern release. Knights of the Round, although it's very modern, still has some Final Fight flair to it. You still need to really mind the crowd and think about where you want to be, where you want them to be.
Yeah.
So then in 1992, we've got Super Double Dragon by Technos. Just want to quick talk about this game because it's got a very generous moveset, and you can both block and parry. And parry is a special grab in this game. So once you parry, your opponent is locked into a grab situation. But it's a different grab than if you grab from having stunned him. Moves look very realistic in this game. It's real martial arts, and it makes combat more choreographic, especially with all these defensive options. That's one thing in favor for parrying mechanics. It's very cinematic. But outside of that, the game is super slow and unbalanced because of charge attacks, and it looks underwhelming. One sad thing about Double Dragon and Technos in general is that Double Dragon kind of became Technos War. They prostitute this IP a lot, and they didn't really, they didn't really invest whatever they gained through it in their other games, and that's why they disappear. It's a bit sad because they had fantastic devs, but management was terrible. They probably had a lot of money from it, so I don't understand why their game were technically so inferior to the competition.
Who knows? So from there we got Hooked by Irem. I've seen some screenshots of this. This is an interesting game. I want to talk about this game because dive attacks in this game can OTG. So for those non-familiar with fighting game, OTG means off the ground. It's an attack you normally you can perform normally outside any contextual situation, but it has that special property that it will work on a lying opponent and usually set him up for a combo. It's more freeform than the previous pin system of Renegade or the Storm system of Crime Fighters. It's also there in Hook. You have both options, but modern game will just favor OTGs. We get back to the central idea that it's good when one move has multiple use. It generally leads to a stronger moveset connectivity. Irem did really great beat 'em up. I love Undercover Cops as well. Their games are underestimated. Undercover Cops, it's because the export version was based by mistake on a prototype version. So you need to play the Japanese version to really see the real game, the real moveset, the real stages. Right.
And okay, I think it's more because of the lack of appeal for the movie it was based on. But both games are very good copies of Final Fight. They really studied what Capcom did with Final Fight, and they really put everything Final Fight had into their games.
Right. Yeah, and I always think Irem games look really good too. So just visually, it's a really cool looking game.
It's so detailed. They will end up making the Metal Slugs under a different name, but you can see the origin.
Yeah, baby.
So then we have Warriors of Fate by Capcom in 1992. So I promise we're not going to discuss every Capcom games, but there's just a lot to say about what they did. So Warriors of Fate marks the operation of the down-up A move. I like to call it dragon, which is something you see in a lot of Capcom beat 'em up, but also Fight and Rage. You can use it to anti-air as a way to finish your string. And unlike Sword 2's Blitz attack, so the Blitz attack in Sword 2 is performed by doing forward plus A motion. Here you can easily change side before pulling off the moves, since it's a down, then A up motion, so you can press left up or right up, which is more practical. Usually when I see combo throws or this move in a game, it's a good sign that the devs might know their stuff.
Yeah, the combo throw game in this game is really cool. I watched Iconoclast run of it, and he was kicking some serious ass.
I think he loves this game. It's his second favorite, if I remember correctly.
Yeah.
It's usually one of the least loved Capcom games, and the reason for it is because it's slow-paced. You've got the very fast Capcom games like Cadillacs and Dinosaurs and The Punisher and Captain Commando, and then you've got the slow one. I think Warriors of Fate is among the slowest one. Knights of the Round is also very slow.
Yes.
And usually people prefer the fast ones, so it's not the most beloved, but I like it very much. What it completely nails, it's its roster. Every character are also unique. You've got an archer, Gaiden, which attacks and even combos from a distance. It's not something you see beat 'em up does a lot. It's very interesting, and you've got a very complete character as well, Kasa, which is definitely one of the best character ever made. And you've got a fast type, Subutai, which has an air-to-air throw, and I just love air-to-air throw. I think it's just
very
so cool.
cool.
I think it's the first game to feature an air-to-air throw. The level design is excellent. It features section where you go from left to right, then right to left, usually on the scene of battle. All levels look really cool.
So up next we got Violent Storm. I've never played Violent Storm.
So Violent Storm is the third Crime Fighters, the big IP from Konami after the TMNT. I didn't want to talk just about Violent Storm. I wanted to bring a fact about how you could differentiate two Final Fight clones in 1993 by speaking about both Violent Storm by Konami and Zero Team by Cebu. So they're part of my personal favorites beat 'em up, especially Violent Storm, definitely my top 10. I just want a quick talk about them for their opposite choices. So Violent Storm features very big sprites, even bigger than Final Fight. I think it's a game that features the biggest sprites you could see in 2D beat 'em up. In opposition to Zero Team, was such small sprites for 1993. They're more like the 1987 era. They're very small.
Right.
So bigger sprites force faster, harder action.
Yeah, the sprites are huge. I'm looking at footage. The sprites are massive. It's awesome.
Yeah, it makes the game very intense. I just think you get very different experience. So to go with its big sprites, Violent Storm has small life bars, which means faster scrolling. It's something important to discuss. I'm not fond of big life bars for enemies. It just slows down the game.
Yes.
You don't want them to get up and then push them back and get up and then push them back. You got this a lot for Super NES game. So because it couldn't support so many characters on screen, but what they did was just make their life bars much bigger. So Violent Storm is at the opposite side of it. It's got very fast scrolling, very strong pressure. There's not that much off-screen action, even though the sprites are so big because you kill the enemy usually in one combo.
Right.
It's an important argument when you go for big sprites. And there are lots of food to compensate for the highly risky situations. I like that approach where you just put more food, make every fight a fight for the death.
Yes, yeah.
And at the opposite side of it, you've got Zero Team, but Zero Team is not bad in any way. So it plays with smaller sprites. What you need is good tools to move your enemies around, and Zero Team brings that thanks to its 3 options at the end of your combo string. So one is to throw your enemy behind your back, and you've got iframes for doing it in exchange. One is to knock down him just in front of you. You've got very small recovery frames, and you're standing still, so you maintain a defensive position. And you've got one that easily damage him and push him backward, but it sports a lot of recovery frames. So this is the go-to move when you're confident about your position on the screen. So you've got Zero Team, which is more of a tactical game where you just plan more ahead, and Violent Storm, which is more frenetic and who plays more about your reaction time and stuff like that.
Yeah. Also, that uppercut move seems really good in Zero Team. I'm watching the replay, guys uppercutting everyone.
Zero Team has one of the closest Shoryuken move you can find in any game period.
Yes. They both look cool, but it is interesting that you see the big difference in the gameplay just by choosing the size of the sprites. That really changes the way you design the levels and everything.
To keep on, Violent Storm reintroduces high, mid, low attacks. It can do because it's very close, so it makes sense to play on the height of your moves. And there's also more off-the-ground actions than ever because you want to keep it very intense. And you can even grab opponents from the floor, which was also a thing in the Punisher. So both games show how much you could copy Final Fight because both really have a strong Final Fight exoskeleton, but still have a ton of personality and be one of the best in the genre.
So up next, Shadow Force. Again, so this is the team who made Double Dragon. I'm not familiar with this one either.
This is the last game of Technos. After that, it just disappeared. So Shadow Force, Ancient Ninja, a very important and influential title because it starts the trend of taking as much inspiration as possible from fighting game. So it's a bell-scrolling beat-em-up. It still is a bell-scrolling beat-em-up, but it adopts fighting games layout. You have 6 buttons outside of Japan. The Japanese version had only 3. So you've got light and heavy punch, light and heavy kick, then a button for jump and a button for possess. Because just like in Abe's Odyssey, you can possess your enemies and play as them. And you've got high, mid, and low attacks by pressing up or down while attacking. And also characters always face their nearest opponents. So when you're holding back, you block incoming attacks, just like in Street Fighter. There's also command moves, which are performed with a half circle motion. So you can see the very strong influence of a fighting game
on it. Yeah.
While it could be seen as a good idea, at least to provide a unique experience, the problem is that there is no moveset connectivity in the game, and it's very unbalanced, so you just end up spamming the same move. It's like many Technos, an interesting game because of what it tries, but not a fantastic one, unfortunately. It can be interesting to try it out. Some people really loves it. I wanted to bring it out because this will lead to Guardian Heroes, launching path for beat 'em up. As itself, I wouldn't say it's a fantastic title.
Right, it has ideas, but it doesn't have the fundamental design, which is important. Right. Up next, we've got, oh boy, Batman Returns, a personal favorite of mine. So why is Batman Returns on the list, as much as I love this game?
First, because I like it very much as well. No, I wanted to bring it both because it's very good synthesis, but it also brings new stuff. One is a thrown weapon that can stun, which is kind of an opener move.
Yep.
And there's also a new form of infinite strings, which is performed thanks to block cancel.
The block cancel, yeah, baby. Yeah, the punch cancel, guard cancel system. But the throw system of the game is so compelling. There's so much shit you can do.
Grab options.
Yeah, because he's like Hagar, because he can grab you and carry you around, but he can do all kinds of crazy stuff. He can grab you, throw you into a glass ceiling, or glass window. He can grab you, and he can grab 2 enemies and slam their heads together. He, of course, can do the infinite with the punches, but you also, on a lot of the bosses, you can do sort of grab infinites on them. You can do all these grab resets and everything. The game is just fun as hell. I think it's a shame it's so overlooked compared to Turtles, because Turtles is great, but I mean they're both on the SNES, they're both by Konami, they're both big IPs. It's so strange that Batman Returns doesn't get the same amount of attention.
Well, there's co-op, the co-op element. Usually beat 'em up you can play co-op are less favored than beat 'em up you can. It's slower, it's much slower than Turtles in Time. As I've said before, the faster you beat 'em up is usually the more likely you'll get fans of it.
Yeah, I would argue though, and I love Turtles in Time, but I would argue that the actual level design, the difficulty curves, all of that stuff is, I think, better in Batman Returns. Like Mania mode is no joke.
Batman Returns is definitely a game I like more than Turtles in Time. It's one of my favorite. Konami latest beat 'em up were Violent Storm and Batman Returns. In 1993, they released 3 Final Fight copies. So there was Batman Returns, Violent Storm, and Metamorphic Force. Yes, Metamorphic Force. It was a departure from what they did before, because before they really capitalized on their own battle system, introduced in TMNT 2 or TMNT 1 in the arcade. And in 1993, they kind of like were, well, maybe we should look at what Capcom made with Final Fight and do this, but with our own flair and our own ideas, and it really worked out. It's a bit sad that they stopped developing beat 'em up after this, because at this point they were on the same level of Capcom, I think.
I agree. I think those late Konami beat 'em ups are super overlooked, especially Batman Returns. I have a whole video about it, how much I love that game. And also the graphics are freaking in the music. Like Konami were on another level with all that. But when I was doing my Mania clear, there was only like one other Mania clear on YouTube from like a Japanese guy, and I felt like I actually had better strats than he did. So I've always said, like, if you want a cool Mania clear, check mine out, because I have some really busted ass strats I came up with in that seem really good. And my Mania clear has more lives at the end, I think.
You've got the best 1cc I've seen of this game. Well, I've seen like a free 1cc video of it, so it's not much, but yeah, your 1cc is very beautiful to watch.
Yeah,
and also your comments help to appreciate the video.
Yes, so check that out. That's one of my favorite videos I've done. That's a little less popular, but I love Batman Returns. I'm glad we got a shout out to it. So after that, Dungeons and Dragons. I've never played this.
So Dungeons and Dragons Tower of Doom is the first Dungeons and Dragons. It was released, I'm not sure, I think it was released very late in December 1993. Again by Capcom. Very, very big influence on the genre. So it makes the King of Dragons and Knights of the Round all together, with even more RPG elements, such as stocking usable items like scrolls or throwable weapons. It's got 4 buttons, so it's more than what it used to be. Usually it was 2 or 3 buttons cabinet. You got 1 button to attack, 1 to jump, 1 to use the selected items, and 1 to cycle through the items wheel. And this item wheel, this kind of inventory will be used by IGS with games like Oriental Legend or Knights of Valor. Excellent 3D moveset. With a lot of possibilities. It's got a similar strong attack as Knights of the Round, except you hit forward first, which is easier to pull off. And if you hit backwards, you get a back attack. There's a counter attack, so it's different than a parry. It's just a parry and an attack mixed together. But you cannot just bait and counter attack. This style of play is not safe in Tower of Doom, because the counter attack always comes out after the parry, unlike in Knights of the Round, where you got iframes and you do what you want with it. So it's more like the counter attack you have in Ninja Gaiden. Ninja Gaiden counter attack is very smart, because a very powerful tool. It's actually easy to pull off in Ninja Gaiden's timing is very lenient.
Yes.
But you don't have iframes for doing it, so you're still going to get punished if you just spam counter attack without thinking about it.
Yeah, I love the counter attack system in Ninja Gaiden.
So in Tower of Doom, jump input is used in different ways. You can crouch and move in that position. There's a multi-purpose slide, which you can use to dash or auto-grab items. From crouch, you can back roll or roll forward and attack. So this is something I really like, and I think modern beat 'em up forget about it. It's instead of having tons of buttons, just use the same button for a different thing, and the jump input should be used for different stuff than just jumping. There's Alien versus Predator that will expand on it. You can do a lot of stuff in this game, but what really makes it unique is that it's both very strategic. You have to decide what you buy, what you stock, and when you will use it in combat. And it's also very tactical because it's still a Final Fight copy outside the lack of 4 games. And it's even more tactical than every other beat 'em up if you played it co-op. So you'll see a lot of people will say play Dungeons and Dragons, but play it co-op because you can have a front and you can have front and back lines. This is because you've got tanking characters that have strong defense and shields, and you will have characters that are better on the back because they have good magic, they have good range attack, but they are weaker and they will die quicker if they get it.
Yeah, I'm watching a 4-player playthrough right now. It is cool. Such a popular arcade game. You know, you go to the arcade with your friends and do this.
Yeah, the arcade cabinet were very popular.
Yes.
The RPG's elements, it's not something I like to dig into. I don't like to buy usable items and to think about, what I should buy and when I will use it, and like stocking on scrolls and stuff like that. And also magic stops times. So I think this is a mistake of the Dungeons and Dragons. So each time you're using a scroll, and if you're playing as a wizard, this will be a lot of time. Well, when you will doing your magic, it will stop time. So we'll spend a lot of time with a freeze screen, just looking at the effect of your magic.
Yeah, lame.
If you're into this kind of stuff, you're going to love Dungeons and Dragons, both Tower of Doom and Shadow of Mystara, because you can do a lot of routing. And if you plan your 1cc, if you really plan your route, your run, it will become a lot more easier than if you just count on your skills.
Right. It's kind of like when people play Dark Souls and they learn how to buy certain items to beat bosses or whatever. Versus when I play, I just try to memorize all their attack patterns and dodge and parry the entire boss.
Except it's much harder. I know it feels weird when you do this comparison with Dark Souls, but if you play Shadow of Mystara without planning anything, it will be a much harder experience than
right.
Than Dark Souls.
right, for sure.
So a comparable game came out in 1994. It's Lightbringer. I think it was called Dungeon Magic in the USA. It's a potato game. I said this before, but potato was really specialized in weird stuff, and this game is very unique. So it's not a bell-scrolling beat 'em up. It's an isometric beat 'em up, but you could also consider it as a light action RPG or hack and slash with heavy beat 'em up mechanics. It's worth mentioning that there are characters that have no blade, so maybe you can consider it a hack and slash. There's a Final Fight exoskeleton in this game that's very strong because you've got a desperate attack, you've got hit strings, you've got a grab game, but at the same time it feels like a bit like Diablo because of the isometric view and the RPG elements. It's a very, very good game, very unique, very good roster as well, in the same vein as the King of Dragons and Warriors of Fate. The thing with this game is you can choose where you go from each screen. You don't have only one option. So there's an adventure element to it where you can decide to go straight to the boss or just explore a little bit. But this poses interesting choices for an arcade game because you can still backtrack, so you can farm and you should take detour for XP and better loot. But at the same time, if you do that, you take extra risk of losing a life, and you have limited lives, of course, to finish the game in 1 credit. Or you should just rush each stage, but then even if you will be taking less risk in the process, you will be facing bosses with a weaker character. So it's a trade-off, but it's an interesting one.
So up next is one that I hear talked about all the time. Alien vs. Predator by Capcom in 1994. This game is a legend of beat-em-up lore. So what's going on in Alien vs. Predator?
So Alien vs. Predator is the third biggest title in terms of influence after Neketsu, Kohakunyo-kun, and Final Fight. It's really big. It marks the separation between older style beat 'em up and the modern beat 'em up. It's both a synthesis, an excellent synthesis of everything before, from even Spartan X. And Double Dragon, POW, TMNT, Final Fight, Mutation Nation, Wars of Fate, Punisher, Avalanche Storm. It brought stuff from all these games, and it's also the basis for the future of the genre. So this game introduce juggle combos. It came after Mortal Kombat, so it's not the first one. Actually, the first beat 'em up with juggles. To be very precise, is Black Belt on the Master System, but it was extremely limited. It's the first one to really have juggle combos, and it came out before One Must Fall. It came out before Killer Instinct. It came out before Children of the Atom. So we were still not in that era passionate about big juggle combos. It was very innovative at that time. I really like Alien vs. Predator combos. They require a lot of skill. They're very skill intensive, which makes them satisfying to perform. They are very freeform. I mean by that you're chaining moves that are not tied to sequence. It's like a Devil May Cry style of performing long combos. But they are of the right length. They are short in Alien vs. Predator. Many beat 'em up that will come after AVP will make them a lot longer, and by a lot, this can really be like 10 seconds or more long, Marvel vs. Capcom style. And in fighting game, I'm not a big fan either, to be honest. But it makes sense because you had to place a certain move, like a big launcher, and it's a reward for that. You made that launcher, you punished your opponent, so now you get your big juicy combo. But in a beat 'em up, what's the reward for? And not only it can ruin the pacing of the game, so sometimes it just cut out more interesting gameplay. I'm all for giving varied combos, but I prefer when they keep it fast outside some super contextual stuff.
Yeah, I definitely agree there. Combos these days feel like they've gotten a little bit Tekken 7. It's like you hit a combo, all right, I'll go eat a sandwich, I'll see you tomorrow. As opposed to like Tekken 3, where you hit them, you launch them, you smack them around a bit, they land, and you start playing, you know?
I'm very nostalgic to Tekken 3 for that. I think they had the right formula at that point, and everything they had after that. Every Tekken game that were released after Tekken 3 were just Tekken 3 with just added fat or
for sure,
superficial things.
Yeah.
It's because perceived depth, honestly. When you've got a beat 'em up that's a ton of moves, a very, very long combos, but then you will have a lot of people will think, well, this game is so much deeper than the other one was less moves and smaller combos. You see that a lot nowadays.
Yeah, exactly.
If I had to say which has the best fighting system out of any action game ever, for me it's this one. It's not my personal favorite beat 'em up, but in terms of fighting system, it's just both such a modern tech and the fantastic synthesis of everything that came before. Yeah. There's a learning curve in that game, truly incredible.
Yeah, it's interesting. They didn't put it on the beat 'em up collection. What's with that?
Oh, it's because I'm pretty sure it's because license issues.
Oh,
I mean, it's
of
Alien
course,
versus Predator.
of course, duh.
But
Yeah.
that's why you don't have the Punisher. That's why you don't have Cadillacs and Dinosaur. It's so sad because I think Cadillacs and Dinosaur, the Punisher, and Alien vs Predator outside Final Fight are the most beloved Capcom titles, and all of them are not in the collection. So, well, it's a sad issue. But yeah, it's a problem with.
Yeah, that's so obvious. I didn't even think about it. Yeah, they don't have the licensing ability to re-release it.
You can legally play Alien vs Predator. It was re-released in their Capcom arcade stick. I don't know if you've heard about it.
I've heard the emulation on that is pretty poop though. Juju Kenobi, he got it for Pro Gear and he said it was no bueno. But you know, it could be different for AVP than Pro Gear. You know, they're different games.
You could also buy the PCBs, but then it'd be like $400 at least.
Oh, that's true. I wonder how expensive the PCBs of this thing are.
It depends. Beat 'em up PCBs are not very expensive. They usually range between 200 and maybe 500.
Yeah, because they're not the same sort of thing as shmups when it comes to like collectors.
Shmup, it costs so much. Shmups, you for a cave shmup, you're around $1,000.
Yeah,
something like that. One of the best aspects of the game as well is its roster. It sublimates this kind of transition from old school beat 'em up to new school beat 'em up. So on one side you've got Schaefer, who incarnates the traditional grounded aspect of old school beat 'em up. It's centered around limited mobility, a very strong throw game, not getting surrounded, and is desperation attack happy. And at the opposite side you've got Lin Kurosawa moveset, which is basically the basis for 3D beat 'em up. She's got a moving chain system, a very modern one, even more modern than Captain Commando. She can grapple on the ground, but she has an aerial throw. She mixes range and melee attacks a lot, like Dante in Devil May Cry. She's got rich combos. She loves to jump. She loves to do aerial combos. She can bounce off enemies. She's execution heavy. So you've got very. And in the same game, you got two sides of the history of beat 'em up. Devil May Cry actually was inspired by Alien vs Predator. Also Guardian Heroes, a lot of a game that came after it. The devs directly say, well, I've been inspired by the fantastic Alien vs Predator.
That's really cool. Okay, so next we have another classic, one that I'm a big fan of, Streets of Rage 3. So what's going? We're running now. The runs in here. That's my favorite part of Streets of Rage 3. What do you think about Streets of Rage 3?
It tried things, but it lacks the balance of Streets of Rage 2. I prefer Streets of Rage 2. There's a very strong. I think it's one of the strongest debates surrounding bell-scrolling beat 'em up because Streets of Rage is so big, but between which has the best battle system. I think balance is very important, and Streets of Rage 2 is a very well balanced game. While Streets of Rage 3, if you know how to play the game, first it's not that hard. It's a big ship because bosses have tons of health, something they changed from the Japanese version. But the game plan is pretty simple. Basically, you want to run to enemy, make a jump in attack. So you jump and do the down plus A attack. Yep. And then you go immediately into foes and then you run out. So you've got this kind of hit and run tactic that you will repeat, and the enemies can't really do much against it. So it's very repetitive, while Streets of Rage 2 is probably the most balanced game after Final Fight. You really need to use every move you have at your disposal. So that's why I prefer Streets of Rage 2. And I don't care that you can't really run in Streets of Rage 2. It's not that important to me. But the big appeal of Streets of Rage 3 is that it feels very close to an arcade game because it's so fast. And arcade beat 'em up tend to be faster than what you had on on console. I think Streets of Rage 3 is what feels the most arcade like out of all beat 'em up that were released on 16-bit console, with maybe Turtles in Time and Hyperstonized.
It feels like a step forward in pacing, but like you're saying, it might be a little bit unbalanced. I'm sure that's true. You're just sitting there doing jump ins all day.
In the history of beat 'em up, it's not a big step forward because Captain Commando in 1991 had a faster pace, I think, than Streets of Rage 3. So it's not.
And we just covered
if you were playing
Alien vs Predator, which is like wild. So there's also that.
Alien vs Predator, the way Alien vs Predator and the movement is very interesting, because in Alien vs Predator you can't run, but you can jump very effectively. The jump input can make you do a lot of stuff. So for example, it can be a dash, it can be a slide, it can be different jump heights. So you've got a lot of mobility, but at the same time you do micro movement. It's like playing in Street Fighter 3, Makoto is my favorite character. And it's a bit like playing Makoto, where she walks very slowly, but at the same time she has very, very strong dash, very fast dash. So it's both very slow. It's an interesting take on mobility. While Streets of Rage 3 is more about liberty. You can run very, very easily. You can also dodge to the side with some kind of
side roll, baby. Right?
Against its balance as well, they made something about the blitz attack. So as long as you don't die, you progressively improve your blitz attack. It gains stars, and it changes. It becomes stronger. You see what I mean? And I think that's a wrong idea. The blitz attack cannot be balanced if you do that. You want the enhanced blitz attack to be stronger. So either you have to make the original blitz attack too weak to be useful, and then the enhanced blitz attack balanced according to your moveset, or you have to make the enhanced blitz attack stronger than the rest of your moveset, and then when you reach 2-star or 3-star blitz attack, you start to really spam it.
It might be one of those things where it brought some cool ideas to the table, but it wasn't quite there balance-wise. But had they continued, I know they made Streets of Rage 4, with a different studio and everything, but like had Sega continued themselves, I could see it being a really cool step forward for a potential Streets of Rage 4 or potential later game in the series. They're trying new ideas, they're just not quite fully figuring them out. But like the run mechanic itself and the side rolls, I think, are great ideas.
What enraged people the most about Streets of Rage 4 is that the studio behind it, World Crush Games, decided to make it a fallback to Streets of Rage 2 because they prefer, just like me, Streets of Rage 2, and a lot of people wanted it to be the continuation of Streets of Rage 3, so to have the basis from Streets of Rage 3 and add stuff from there. The remake made on Open Boy is more like that. You've got it's balanced around Streets of Rage 3 and lets you play every levels from every games of the trilogy.
Yeah, I think that's not surprising to me in the slightest. Whenever they remake a game in a series, they always look for the most accessible sort of baseline popular version of it. Like for instance, it's not a remake, but Street Fighter 4 is like a reboot of the series basically.
To Street Fighter 2, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And they weren't like looking at Third Strike, like, parries, let's figure out what we're gonna do and make parries part of the game and stuff. They were like, okay, what's the most popular solid version of Street Fighter 2? So we're gonna build off that. Alrighty, so Streets of Rage 3, it sounds like I might be a bit more of a fan of it than you are.
Why I wanted to bring this game and Engine Mikey from Winkysoft, because I don't know which one came first, but the new concept they both introduced about at the same time. It's to have the meter for special attacks. It's something you also have in Fight and Rage. So what it is, it's you've got a meter that recharges over time, and when it's full, you can do your special attacks for free, and when it's not full, you usually can do your special attacks as well, but then it will cost you life. So it's something it adds, and it was influential. Many games actually
hell yeah.
used that system. So it's not something I'm fond of. The problem with this system is that it recharges out of combat, and it values hit and run tactics, especially in Streets of Rage 3, since you have so much mobility. So you can really just avoid the enemies, run around them while your meter recharges, and when it's full, now you got this safe net you can use for free, and as soon as you've pulled it out, you can just get back to avoiding the enemies until it recharges. I think it would have been better if it charged only when you hit your enemies.
My exact thoughts. That's really funny you brought this up, because Bog and I had this exact discussion about that in Fight and Rage, and I was saying I was saying that really is the only thing I can think of, is like they should make it hit based rather than charge based, so you can't timer scam the game. But I was also saying,
for me, it's the only mistake of Fight and Rage.
Yeah, agreed. Patch it. We just started change.org. Patch it. Another thing though that's funny, because we're speaking about Street Fighter 3, is one thing about Street Fighter 3 that I dislike is being able to just whiff normals and charge your super, so you get those stupid Urian tactics and all that crap, or a Ryu with his Denjin. He sits there and just spams medium punch, and then he throws Denjins at you. So similar mistake between both games.
Exactly, yes.
Yeah, I think on hit, please, or maybe even on block, but you got to do something. You can't just charge passively or by spamming moves. So yeah, I definitely agree with that assessment 100%.
You need to work for it. It can be something you gain just by waiting.
Yeah, because that incentivizes you to just run away, basically, you know.
It's not fun, and it's not good to reward unfun gameplay.
Up next,
so we finally can talk about the Ninja Warriors again, by Natsume,
the Ninja
for
Warriors
the Super
again.
NES. It's one of the extremely rare parallax scrolling beat 'em up that heavily emphasize active crowd control. Thanks to the fact that you can block while moving, thanks to throws. It's a very throw heavy game, which is very, very rare for parallax. I think it might be the only parallax scrolling beat 'em up that so emphasize throws and iframe moves in general.
Yeah,
you've got
the iframe backflip. That thing is insane.
Even what's interesting, if, for example, if you play Ninja is my favorite character in the Ninja Warriors again. If you go at the end of his hit string combo, then he's got iframe move. So you can't just use an instant iframe move and have this get out of jail card. But if you plan your actions carefully, you can have your iframe move at the right time. Just necessitates careful planning.
Yes.
Basically, it takes Final Fight philosophy, but it adapts it to its own format.
Yeah, it's one of the most
just
unique beat-em-ups I've ever played. I've never quite played a game like it.
And the Ninja Warriors is fantastic remake. It completes this with well-thought new moves, slightly better enemy variety, and one of the best roster ever made.
Yes, the new characters are cool. The new characters
awesome.
are really cool. An insane throw game. It's crazy iframe moves and really good enemy design, really good enemy patterns. The boss fights are all really fun and wild, and the graphics too. I think the game looks amazing. It's an impressive beast. I think it's not that popular or not that well known though, because it's so funky. I think most people didn't know what the hell to even do. It is a great game.
It's slow. It's relatively slow when you compare it to modern flat scrolling beat 'em up.
Yeah, the way to speed it up is you just backflip spam through the levels. That's what I do. I'll hold and I'll just backflip through the level, and you can
even then when you compare it to the dishwasher or Shank, it's much slower.
That's very true. Okay, so up next, Final Fight 3 on the Super Nintendo. I'm interested to see what you think about this.
Oh, the reason I wanted to bring Final Fight 3 in the discussion is because it features AI co-op. Again, I like to be accurate. It's not the first beat 'em up to features AI co-op. I think the first one, which came a year before, is Gourmet Sante Barayaro from Wins, a weird beat 'em up which lets you play with an AI partner that was a clone of yourself, but it's a pickup item. It's different from Final Fight 3 approach, where Final Fight 3 really replaces a true human partner. It lets you choose as a playable character for your AI partner from the start, and he has lives and everything.
That's wild. Is that how you're supposed to play? Like, will it force you to have an AI partner, or is that optional?
No. You can play it solo, and actually, because the game slows down to a crawl if you have an AI partner, the Super NES cannot handle it. It's better. Final Fight 3 is better if you just play it solo, unfortunately. But the AI is quite good. It performs good moves. Of course, it won't survive to the end if you play it on hard difficulty. It won't survive, but it will still help you on the first stages, and it works. It really works, and it's something I think it doesn't detract anything from the game. It's some work, but I really like when devs takes the time to put an AI partner. Again, Fight and Rage, who does everything right, they work. He works because he's alone. He works to provide AI partners. You can even have two AI partners.
Yeah,
and
that's
play,
wild.
just like your free players, and experience the story from free players' perspective. But so few does. Even Streets of Rage 4, where so much effort have been put into it, so many years of development, they didn't make the effort to include an AI partner for the solo guys like me.
That is pretty cool. Yeah, I never even thought of that. So that's kind of like the big deal about Final Fight 3. Is the AI
that's a big deal, right? It's an interesting game. It's got a very cool move set. You can run and cancel it with a backdash, for example. I really like this move. There's a command move which cancel your combos, so you can build your combo pretty freely. But it's still short combos, and you always have to think about what you want to do in terms of risk reward. Do I want to cancel my combo with a bigger move that will have bigger recovery frames, or do I just want to end it or cancel it? It's always a tactical decision. It's not just to look cool. So it's good on that department. It just suffers from being a Super NES title.
Right. Not enough enemies on screen, right?
It should have been released first in the arcade and then ported on Super NES, and that would have been a fantastic successor of Final Fight.
So speaking of exclusives, that's a nice transition. Guardian Heroes on the Sega Saturn, a game I've heard so much about and yet have never played, by the illustrious, the famous, the beloved Treasure. What is your unbiased opinion of this game? Being a beat 'em up expert. I was afraid to say that, because every time I watch a gameplay of the game, I'm like, this looks jank as shit. But what's going on with Guardian Heroes?
You clearly see the Treasure's touch, like in Alien Soldier or Radiant Silvergun, of experimenting and arranging a final product that departs from the fundamentals. It's a new type of scrolling between belt and parallax. So it's not a proper belt scrolling beat 'em up. You cannot move freely on the Z-axis. You have 3 lanes and you can switch between them. When in one lane, however, the game plays more like a fighting game with up to jump, down to crouch, and command moves. So it's a very modern approach. Limiting lanes help with beginners' problem when it comes to being aligned with the enemies, and it simplifies tactical positioning of yourself and the enemies by a lot. There's no throw games as well. So going to a different lane mostly help with evading certain attacks, prioritize certain enemies, or recharge your resources. And also the game is very combo heavy, especially if you play Jinjiro as a ninja, and to a lesser extent the mage kit. You can put out some 1 100 plus very long juggle combos that do look cool, but well, I've made a case about it earlier. I think it detracts from the game on the long term. But many people consider it such deep beat 'em up because of the combos and the command moves and the RPG mechanics as well. You have RPG mechanics. It's like a beat 'em up released in 2010s. You can increase the stat of your choice between each level. But the reason I don't like it's not because of the RPG mechanics or the super long combo. The problem is its stat value is damaged by its universal solutions. Guardian Heroes is all about avoidance through switching lanes and spamming high priority moves. Yep. So you usually just use the same two moves again and again because they're just so strong. They beat everything. They've got this high priority factor, which is so important since you're still fighting on the street lane your enemies. And it doesn't help that you're accompanied by an immortal, super strong AI partner. So this one also features an AI partner, but it's imposed. You can choose not to have it, and it's super strong. It's better than your own characters, and it's immortal. So even if the enemies gang up on it, it will lose all its life. It's just a matter of seconds before it starts to fight again.
It's like having Solid Snake at the end of Metal Gear Solid 2, where he's just beating everyone, and you're like, what the hell? It's just way too OP of a AI partner.
For the entirety of the game, yeah. One thing that is very good with this game is you've got branching paths after each level. You can choose where you want to go, and it's got a lot of branching paths. Branching paths is a very good way to deal with both generosity and at the time of an arcade playthrough. So basically, you want your game to be about 1 hour long. I'd say between 45 minutes and 1 hour long is the best time for an arcade playthrough. For a beat 'em up, of course. But it can feel too small of content for a modern beat 'em up. So a solution to that is what Fight and Rage did.
The branching path.
Fight and Rage super well. So it's branching path, and you want it. You want your branching path from the beginning because you don't want to force the player to play for the same first or first and second stage again and again. Fight and Rage does that from the beginning.
Yes, you can just turn around.
You can go right.
You just turn around
from
and
the
go
very beginning.
different.
You can diversify and choose the level you want to play. So. Other Heroes doesn't do that from the first level, but it still handles it very well. You've got more branching paths than Fight and Rage.
With Guardian Heroes, I think it's maybe a similar situation where they have a lot of cool ideas, but I don't know if it quite.
To be fair, every too close to fighting games tend to end up the same. I forgot to talk about Mad Stalker Full Metal 4th, which is a beat 'em up released by Feline Cafe in 1994. It's only on one lane, so it's a parallax beat 'em up, but it plays like Street Fighter 2, only with mechas. It's an honest game, carefully made, but the lack of options for crowd control, the fact that combats are centered around you, 1 versus 2, and the amount of iframes you have on your Shoryuken quickly makes the gameplay redundant. You just abuse your Shoryuken. It's like playing Street Fighter 2 against CPU over and over with the same character. And against AI, it's not. I don't think that's the direction beat 'em up should go for.
No.
I don't think it's a good, and that's what Guardian Heroes does. It's too much of a fighting game, but it's loved for good reasons. Well, it's really qualitative. There's a lot into it. Actually, even the versus mode, which probably is the best part of the game, and you can play as any enemy. This game features as well, even in solo mode. And that's pretty cool to have such generous content.
That is crazy.
As soon as you start to be good at this game, as soon as you start to play optimally, but then the value quickly decreases. It had a few spiritual successors. There was Panzer Bandit, which was released by Feeling Cafe as well. They were really interested in blending fighting with beat 'em up. And there's Street of Fury by Guard Coach Games and Phantom Breaker Battlegrounds by Mage on X360.
I've played Phantom Breaker Battlegrounds. I've tried so hard to like those games, but I've never been able to enjoy them. Are you a fan?
No, I think Phantom Breaker is the best take on the Guardian Heroes concept. It's the best one out of all I've quoted. Streets of Fury is probably the worst, but I'm not a fan. I'm still not a fan.
Yeah, I don't know. Like you're saying, I don't know if taking it in a more fighting game direction really works. It feels like just a watered down fighting game at that point.
Transition complete. Central block and districts 1 through 7 have been retracted.
So thank you to the $5 patrons, 100, accepting Panda, Admiral Coconut, Arnold, Alexander Pfeiffer, Alexander Talbot, Dingo, Another Joe, Anthony A, Arcade Hell, Aaron Solis, Arrow Viper, Bo, Ben, Vito Dames, Borgie22, Brian Shiver, Chase Palumbo, Chattel Maltese, Chris Yuzefovich, Chronic Burnout 3, Clara Cliff, Climby Coyote, Coast, Colorboy, Cooksand666, Cook Some Soup, Corey Mark, Des Audio, Danchi, Darren Griffin, Dave Hansen, Delta Tango 6, Disco Star Slaya, DJ420, Praise It, Eric H, Fantaside, FCK, Francisco, Full Set, Retro Schmupper, Hausu, Jake Ryan, JLab, JB RPG, John Kelly, Game Boy Guru, K, K2, Khalil Reedy, Contain, Praise the Boys, K Horse, Malaise, Matt O'Leary, Maz, Megadeth 859, Minung, Mechlin, Michael McCord, Mitchell Y, Queen Charlene, Nathaniel Davis, Neon Dagger Games, Oakland Kugels, Philip Mason, Rattlecat, Raul, Real Skeen, Riff Mason, Rolf015, Sarah, Scanline City, Seesaw STG, Shmup Junkie, Sir Pong, Steve Fiction, Street Magic, Super Funk, Tamzarian, Takero Mucho, The Boot Rex, Their Dirty Screech, The N1, The Old Bensta, Tiram, Sugumo, 2IU, Twilight EX, Utakoi Roots, Vic Viper, Wabby Legs, X20 Specs, Hoghog, and Utskaya. Thanks for watching.